today. If there are going to be any changes. They state right here that it's quite disheartening to wait 6 hours for a certain map condition to come up, even more so when you spawn late, and even more so when it takes 150 to 200k kit to run the high-end trials for max score, and hoping the spawn RNG goes in your favor. I tried ground-based ARC at least 10 times across Hidden Bunker, Spaceport
Welcome
Night,
to my
and
channel.
Spaceport EMS, and damn
Streamlaments.
EMS, but only got 50k score.
Welcome
while
to
others
my
were able to
channel.
push 60k on Spaceport on their better runs. Now, this has been a bit of an issue overall, and they are looking into it, as Embarkosen states that the team is actually looking into it. I think that the trials was probably one of those things that was always bound to change over time, with that fabulous four-legged fiend, the Leaper. So here's a showcase of some of these massive moments. Note, the video may contain screaming and shrieking, and we're delighted to let you know that only are we collecting clips from your gameplay, we are showcasing them into the community, highlight reels, and on our socials, but the top 3 clips will be rewarded with the tokens below. 2,400 for the first place, 1,000 for the second, and 500 for the third. Whether you're a member of the top 3 or not, everyone whose clips made it to the community highlights will receive this exclusive film reel back. And what it will give you is special rewards, bonus skill points, extra stash space, more scrappy materials, additional XP gain, and increased weapon repairs. Although what will happen is that you'll lose absolutely everything that you've worked for.
Today we are taking out the legendary Anvil Splitter. Is it good? Is it bad? We're gonna find out. This match is filled with all sorts of surprises, funny moments, and chaos. We fight players, we fight PvP, PvE, to find out if the Anvil Splitter is even worth using or just sticking in your stash and looking at its pretty colors. Let's get into it. It's in my safe pocket for now. We'll put it on the weapon, which is really nice, right? We can put it away whenever things get a little bit too dangerous. I'd love to see how it deals with a Hornet as well. We've got a Hornet here. Let's put on the Anvil Splitter. I'm going to do one shot whilst crouched. We missed. Obviously, I'm going straight for the armor here. I want to see what it's capable of. So far, I'm noticing one thing on lower arc armor targets. Basically the same amount of shots to kill, but it's getting thrown around in the air a lot. What about something with a bit more armor penetration? Might have to take up these arcs sneakily first. Then we'll try and move up. Whilst that player is busy. Not really so sneaky. Oh, there's a surveyor over there. We're going to have to deal with that. We might be able to get a blueprint. Oh, is he shooting at me? Hello? You want to fight me? Or you want to be friends? You want to fight me or you want to be friends? We can be friends. Hello? You need help with that thing? Hello? Hey, do you need help with the Leaper? Not really applying to me. Fire in the hole! You're welcome!
Thank you, bro.
Yeah, you're welcome. Alright. Have a good raid. Okay. Hey, if you see me later, remember me, okay?
Cheato quest, bro, mamma.
Remember me.
Thank you.
Yes, remember my face. I saved you. Friendly, friendly, okay?
Thank you.
Right, off to get the surveyor. If I'm correct, this thing is going to do a better job at arc armor penetration. which means we should have an easier time taking down the Surveyor. I wanted to shoot the Leaper, but we'll go for a bigger target. Maybe the Bastion in the tunnels. Which could get a little bit dangerous. Okay, so it's really close. Here we go. Got the Anvil Splitter on. Hopefully nobody shoots me. I'm going to have quick fingers and put it in my safe slot. I put it back. Here we go, here we go. Okay, it's going to run now. This is the important part. You need to... Yeah, it's mostly the same. Where did the Surveyor go? It really ran off, huh? I'm starting to scratch my head around this. What is the purpose of it exactly? There's the Surveyor. I think it's stuck. Here we go, here we go. Got a crouch on it. That's 400 damage. I mean, that was a decent amount, but I still feel like the Anvil would have done that itself. Maybe we need to test this on the Rocketeer then. There it goes. It's so weak. Give me your blueprints. We've also got to treat it like a shotgun. Maybe it's going to be better at dealing sort of like a shotgun blast. But at that point... Oh, first fight. Okay, here we go. Let's test it. Let's test it. We've got a bandit. Okay. Gonna need to pop one of these. We're going in. Reload. Oh, it's pretty good. I mean, the Anvil always is. How dare you, man? Oh, okay. Anvil 1, Pharaoh 0. Was that any different than the normal Pharaoh? No, not yet. Got to really test it, though. Rocketeer next. Where's my Surveyor as well? What I'm learning... Should have taken the Pharaoh. Oh, well. What I'm learning about the legendary items... They're not that legendary. I feel like the epics are better. Here's my Surveyor. Very injured. If I could just get a shot on you. Be great. Nice. Oops. That was a bit of a fall. Just get myself back to spray. There's someone trying to extract there. I hope they don't steal my Surveyor kill. I found a lot of blueprints from Surveyors. The Vita spray is one of them. He doesn't try and take that. Hopefully he just disappears. Blew up down here. I do like the way that I can just pop it back in my safe pocket though when I'm kind of doing something where I'm vulnerable. But I still need to find a use for it. What is the real use? Oh! Muzzle Brake 2. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, okay, interesting. Next fight. It's not after me, is it? Can't be, surely. Here we go, here we go. I'm gonna do it, dude. Oh, put it away. Okay. What? You shot me first, man. What are you talking about? Don't swear at me. How dare you? You could have been friendly. You're poor? You want my gun? Well, you should have asked. Why did you try to shoot me? I'm not going to give it to you now, am I? Silly, silly. Hey, there are better ways to get guns. Go and loot the damn battlegrounds. Well, he had the upper hand. It was very brave of me to hold that angle. I think I've kind of got a thought. You know, I think that's smart. Basically, it's kind of like you aim for the head, and if you accidentally miss the headshot, you're still going to do some decent damage. So you're, you know, the Anvil, you want to go for that two-shot headshot, really. It's going to be a little bit more forgiving. And I think that's quite nice. Right. Rocketeer next. We've got to find ourselves a nice position to fight the Rocketeer. Probably the Raiders' refuge. Hopefully there's one hanging about there. I want to see if my theory is correct, if it can penetrate the armor quicker on the Rocketeer thrusters, so that we can take it out nice and fast. It's a nice, like, Rocketeer blaster, you know? Honestly, the way I see it, this is rarer than a hull cracker. We can now craft hull crackers. I've done the quest. So this should be providing me more benefit than a hull cracker. Or more benefit than a hull cracker. It's not sticking back in the
Welcome to my channel.
Hello. Hello, welcome.
Hey. You.
Hey, you. Hello, hello. Oh! My God.
How is game going? He.
Good. Yes. Being that I'm trying only to do the trying to do the trial events, but the catch is you need to survive it and not get killed by lightning and whatnot. I did all the quests and I collected all the materials, and I guess I wanna rack the points for that. And it's such a cold weather at my place, and there is still some kind of a nasty fly around me. Is this real? trying not to destroy my display because of a fucking fly. drone is mine.
All Raiders, arc on screen. 5 minutes left.
Yeah, I
Go
like
find
your
your way
shot.
home. I repeat, 5 minutes.
It's kinda easy.
So did you stream daily or
Yes, yes. But that's not my job. That's my hobby.
Amoki that is cool. So what do you think playing with fans sometime?
I don't know. I don't have any fans, but okay. Sure.
Play some. So I will be down for. So did you have any fave game?
It was Diablo games, but before. Now. Not really.
So did you have any other social like Insta or Disc? So I am here to play.
No, not really, but you know, thanks for offering.
This girl is always here to So did you have any?
No. thanks for asking, but I got a job. This is only my hobby. Streaming is only my hobby. I usually play games and like watch YouTube, like when I have spare time. 21,000 XP. Pretty solid. Not bad. But this is too expensive, the thing that I'm running. American woman, once you get away. American woman. That's enough.
Hey, got fresh explosives for sale.
No shit.
You want that? Sure, it'll do the job, I suppose. I know they don't look like much, but you won't find better explosives anywhere else in Toledo. I promise.
Probably. Oh la la.
Oh, someone's got one more to do here. Looks like someone's been... I don't want to be a bandit.
Which means we're not talking about any of those trilogies. No, we're talking about 10 of the most underrated trilogies of all time. And yes, I'm a real person with real eyeballs that really watched all of these movies. I'm not some AI server sitting in Silicon Valley. 10 trilogies means we've got 30 underrated movies to discuss in less time than you normally spend looking for something to watch every night. As always, check the list recap at the end of every video for a list of streaming services currently hosting the...
Let me in your disc.
Well, I don't running on my own Discord, but okay.
Your call is elevator incoming. Hang in there.
My dis is being weird. I'm unable to join any server. Can you add me?
Yes, something is weird. Looks like my admin timed you out. I don't know if I can do anything about that. Weird, huh?
Don't shoot!
Hello, hello. Any folks we can kill? Hello, hello. Yeah, sure.
All right! Hey there!
Hello.
Orbiter is en route. Safe window is closing. 10 minutes to get out of there. I repeat, 10 minutes.
Shut up. Oh.
You made it. No refunds.
Ain't spending money on that, but what can you do?
You think wearing a stethoscope all the time would make me look more professional or just stylish?
Make you a less idiot, I guess.
If anyone's seen a medical crew in Speranza, tell them Sector C5 has been waiting for hours.
This one is this.
These movies in your country. First up, we've got some dark fantasy, followed by an action sci-fi series, as well as some classic movies you probably didn't know were officially part of an unofficial
Really?
trilogy. And we'll begin this list of underrated trilogies with one that is incomplete, the only incomplete trilogy on this list, but it's a visually stunning and totally awesome dark fantasy series from Russia called the Night Watch trilogy. The first movie is Night Watch. Again, totally awesome dark fantasy stuff. Horror elements, yes, but you would not call these horror movies. There's vampires and all sorts of dark macabre stuff, but it's a completely interesting setup. The first movie opens up with a story of this centuries-old battle between good and evil, and you've got the Day Watch and the Night Watch that's keeping all of these evil things at bay. Pretty simple setup, but like I said, a visual stunner. Same goes for Day Watch, an equally impressive movie. Story maybe gets a little bit muddled in the second one, and that might be part of the reason why we never got a third. The third movie, called Dusk Watch, maybe even Twilight Watch in some languages, the production has just been totally gridlocked. It may never actually get finished, as both of these movies have some years on them now. Night Watch is over 20 years old already. It doesn't look like it though. In fact, this director went on to do Wanted here in the US, and I believe Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. So if you like his bombastic style, you are going to love, I mean love, the first two Night Watch movies. It really is a shame there's not a third. These come and go off of streaming services, so if you don't want to rent them, just be patient. But if you're into the concept and the way I'm presenting it here, these are well worth renting. Just keep in mind they are from Russia. If you rent them, you are going to have to read subtitles. Next up on the list, we've got another sort of dark sci-fi trilogy. This one's a bit more well known, but not nearly as well respected as I think it should be. And that's the Riddick trilogy. Yes, the Riddick trilogy with Vin Diesel. The first movie in the series really being the best. It's Pitch Black, a pretty well-respected sci-fi horror flick that stars Vin Diesel as this Riddick character who's just kind of like an intergalactic badass who can see in the dark. And he's a great character in that movie, but he's not the focus of Pitch Black. Then they made a sequel, kind of prequel thing called The Chronicles of Riddick, and where I think they went wrong here is they made it this much bigger, more expansive story, which sounds like a good idea on paper, but it didn't really work for the Riddick character. Plus, this is the only PG-13 one in the trilogy, with the other two having a pretty hard R rating. Now, a lot of time went by before they did a third installment. It's titled Riddick. I think easily the most overlooked in the trilogy, and certainly one of the more overlooked movies on this list. Riddick abandoned the PG-13 rating and the big epic story that Chronicles of Riddick tried to do and went back to basics and made a movie a lot like Pitch Black. You follow Riddick kind of stranded on this one deserted planet. Some mercenaries are after him, and just like Pitch Black, this planet is covered in these flesh-eating monsters that tend to come out at night. Riddick has a lot more action adventure elements. It's a bigger, bolder movie than Pitch Black. It doesn't necessarily make it better, but it is a hell of a follow-up to Pitch Black, whereas the Chronicles of Riddick is kind of its own thing. I mean, hell, when Chronicles of Riddick came out, there was an incredible first-person video game where you play as Riddick escaping this massive prison. That game is still incredible today. That story, I think, would have made a much better movie than the Chronicles of Riddick, and the three movies would have been a little more cohesive as they're a little more laser-focused.
Let's cut him loose.
Now, my number 8 pick on this list is also foreign language, and it's fairly well known, but was overshadowed, I think, by its American remake, and that's the Millennium Trilogy, or the Girl Trilogy, where we've got the girl with the dragon tattoo, the girl who played with fire, and the girl who kicked the hornet's nest. And even though David Fincher's American remake overshadowed the Swedish versions, they're very well done, and they all got completed, all with the same character. This was Noomi Rapace's big claim to fame. It's the reason she became such a big star here in the States. These movies were a massive hit around the world, and tell the stories of the books quite well. Doesn't have all the flair and gloss of a David Fincher movie, but the storytelling is there, which is key. Again, you will have to read subtitles for these, but they're excellent dark mystery movies. I don't just mean excellent, I mean it doesn't get a whole lot better, especially if you're searching for a trilogy in this genre. It really does not get any better. Next we go to Hong Kong for an incredible crime trilogy that was also turned into an American remake by a top-tier director. I'm talking about the Infernal Affairs trilogy with Infernal Affairs, Infernal Affairs 2, and 3. The first Infernal Affairs was adapted into The Departed here in America, directed by Martin Scorsese. One of my all-time favorite movies. The original Hong Kong version is every bit as good as The Departed, and there are 2 follow-up movies. If you love gangster movies like I do, and you love a good, sharp international thriller, Infernal Affairs is an amazing movie. Just watch the first one, it'll blow your mind. Now, I will warn you, plot-wise, it's very closely connected to The Departed, so there's going to be some spoilers, but good news for you, you've got 2 sequels following it up. They're equally as good. There are wilder, more action-heavy Hong Kong crime flicks. These, though, are the real deal. Before moving on, I'll point out that this Have a Yippee-Ki-Yay Christmas t-shirt has a little surprise on the back. And there's plenty of time for you to order it and get it in time for Christmas. In fact, I believe December 12th is the cutoff date for orders in the United States. And there's a ton of designs over there now. My wife and I have been designing these together for over a year, and we got quite a collection going. The shirts are ridiculously soft. They are a fitted design, which I love. Like, they're my favorite shirts to wear out and about. But if you like your shirts a bit loose, I recommend going a size up. These are only available at darrenvandam.com/shop, and all the designs reference my favorite movies, including Old Boy, which is next up on the list. A lot of people don't even know Old Boy is officially part of a trilogy, the Vengeance trilogy. In the early to mid-2000s, director Park Chan-wook directed 3 incredible revenge thrillers, and Old Boy is the middle installment. The first one is titled Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, and you can currently catch it on AMC Plus or Shudder here in the United States. Again, incredible revenge thriller, stunning cinematography at times, heartbreaking plot twist. I mean, devastating plot twists. If you've seen Old Boy, you know the types of plot twists I'm talking about. You get those in Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, yet it's a very different story. You would never know this was connected to Old Boy in any way, and it's not, story-wise. Thematically, it is, and this director did all these movies close together. Now, Old Boy is far and away the most famous movie he ever did, and for good reason. It's maybe the best movie he's ever done. While the other 2 movies in the trilogy do play with similar themes, none of them nail it quite the way that Old Boy did. So, if you're gonna start with this trilogy, maybe you've never seen Old Boy, I highly recommend starting there. It is a phenomenal movie, not just in terms of how good a thriller it is, but it's a mystery with just completely unpredictable moments from the very beginning all the way to the end. It's an incredible film. And then you've got Lady Vengeance, the artsier of the 3. Maybe the artsiest movie this guy ever did. I don't know, I've not seen his whole filmography, but Lady Vengeance stands out in this trilogy. While also playing with similar themes, Lady Vengeance a lot more artistic in its presentation and even the way it breaks the story down. So it's a good one to end this trilogy with, especially if you really enjoyed the other 2. Lady Vengeance kind of in a way helps bring things full circle. Now here we are smack dab in the middle of the list, and I've got what is probably the most famous unofficial trilogy maybe of all time. In fact, all the remaining trilogies on this list are relatively unofficial. Each one was done by one director. Next up, we've got the Cornetto trilogy, as it's come to be called in the UK. That is Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and The World's End, all directed by Edgar Wright, all starring Simon Pegg and Nick Frost as a killer comedy duo. It's so amazing they did 3 of these movies, and while they don't necessarily get better, Shaun of the Dead is such a well-crafted movie. In its genre, it is one of the best. And Hot Fuzz is almost as good, and then The World's End is almost as good as Hot Fuzz. They're all hilarious, yet loaded with a fair amount of action, and they reference movies in a way that nothing else quite does. It doesn't mean they're referencing quotes and lines from other movies.
Point Break or Bad Boys 2?
Which one do you think I prefer?
No, I mean,
Break.
which one do you want to watch first?
But the things that happen in these Edgar Wright movies sort of take your expectations of things you've seen in a lot of movies before, and they set them up and then have a lot of fun with them. Well, it is cool that Edgar Wright has branched out and he's doing a lot of other types of movies. In my mind, he could have made movies with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost forever, and I think we all would have loved them. Again, this is one of the more well-known, unofficial trilogies, but I've got 4 more coming up on this list for you.
2 seconds.
Hey, Neil. Yeah, man, I can't really talk now.
Oi! Sean.
Oh.
Now, even though my number 4 pick is technically an unofficial trilogy, it's officially become one in fan circles, and that's John Carpenter's Apocalypse trilogy, which starts off with The Thing, like one of his most well-known movies, but it's followed up by some of his lesser-known movies, including The Prince of Darkness, which, yes, is a Dracula vampire movie, but they're like bringing about the end of the world almost in a way the aliens in The Thing were. And then you go full apocalypse with In the Mouth of Madness, a movie I recommend here on the channel all the time. One of those lesser-known cult classic movies that I love helping people discover. Honestly, if you've never seen In the Mouth of Madness, maybe you've never seen one of my videos before or I have yet to recommend it to you, insane H.P. Lovecraft inspired movie, again done by horror master John Carpenter. It's incredible stuff, and it's the final one in this unofficial trilogy. Obviously, The Thing, not only does it feature cutting-edge practical effects, or at least cutting edge when the movie came out, practical effects that still look amazing today, but it really is one of John Carpenter's more well-crafted movies. And then I gotta say, Prince of Darkness, it's my least favorite in his Apocalypse trilogy, but for vampire movie fans, it really is an incredible, underrated gem.
He sees you.
We're going to stick with the horror theme for one last trilogy on this list. It's also the last trilogy that features foreign languages, and that's Guillermo del Toro's Spanish Gothic set with Cronos, another vampire movie, but a totally unique one I love recommending here all the time. You've also got The Devil's Backbone, easily one of his most underrated movies and one of his most well-done movies. And then finally, Pan's Labyrinth, probably his greatest achievement to date. And these are easily 3 of his best movies. Like, even though The Shape of Water won Academy Awards, and even though I love the 2 Hellboy movies he did, these are really, truly his best films. As part of the reason I was so disappointed with Frankenstein is it didn't even come close to being as good as any one of these 3 movies. So with Cronos, you get this incredible vampire flick with a completely unique setup. It actually revolves more around this Cronos device that essentially turns someone into this bloodthirsty ghoul. Amazing stuff. It is mixed language. You've got Spanish and English, and a young Ron Perlman in that one. And then The Devil's Backbone revolves around an orphanage, a haunted orphanage. Cinematically, it is a breathtaking movie, and then in terms of a ghost story, it's just an excellent one. Certainly not the scariest movie he's ever made. It's pretty slow-paced, but just excellent filmmaking and storytelling. And then, I mean, Pan's Labyrinth has got to be one of the more well-known movies on this list, but it too, loaded with costumes, practical effects, most of what you're seeing is actually happening in the lens of the camera. Not a lot of added CGI in Pan's Labyrinth, and again, top-notch storytelling. And again, it's the main reason I was so disappointed in Frankenstein. It is just not anywhere near the storytelling level that his really, truly good films are. It's just not. If you like getting movie recommendations from a real-life person versus an AI program, then let the algorithm know by clicking the like button, and subscribe if you want to see future videos. Every week I put out 1 or 2 videos chock full of fresh movie recommendations just like this one to help make sure you never run out of good movies to watch. And then my number 2 pick is going to be well known for some people, but I still really love recommending the Man with No Name trilogy, which is sort of unofficial, but this is Clint Eastwood in Fistful of Dollars, for a few dollars more, and then the most well-known, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now, he is not necessarily playing the same character in each movie, but he's also doing the same performance in each movie. So he's basically the same character, and he's not the only one. There are a bunch of actors that appear in 2 or 3 of these movies playing different characters. I mean, Sergio Leone is considered the master of Western movie making, and this is his Western trilogy. Each movie in this trilogy is an amazing classic Western. Like, all 3 are among some of the best Westerns ever made, and they string together in an incredible way. So with Fistful of Dollars, it's just a classic movie. It's got classic moments in it that, you know, even the one recreated for Back to the Future Part 3. And then For a Few Dollars More is easily the least watched out of the trilogy, and probably one of the lesser remembered Clint Eastwood Westerns, but it's fantastic. It doesn't have as many memorable moments in it, but it's a top-notch sort of edge-of-your-seat story that goes bigger than the first one. And then The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, I mean, just becomes this incredibly ambitious epic. So each movie basically ratchets things up, and if you watch them consecutively, even just one week after another, you don't have to watch these all in one sitting, I'm not suggesting that, but if you watch them close together, I think you'll see a really talented director only getting better at his craft with each film, and I love that. And that same notion applies to my #1 pick, which is not only unofficial, I don't know that I've ever heard anyone claim these 3 to be a trilogy, but I have been a long-time believer that 3 of my absolute favorite Coen Brothers movies of all time belong in a trilogy together that I call the Hitman trilogy. The last one being one of their greatest films, No Country for Old Men, garnered tons of critic acclaim, and, you know, audiences loved this movie as well. Even if you don't love the ending, it's hard to deny how incredible of a movie this is. No Country for Old Men is so amazing, it does not need a single note of music to help support the tension and the mood throughout this movie. Not a note throughout the entire film. It has no score, no nothing, and it works brilliantly for No Country for Old Men. Not to mention incredible cinematography from Roger Deakins and an amazing story based on a book by Cormac McCarthy. And that's not even to mention the cast and the roles and the amazing characters and the incredible scenes. Movies don't get a whole lot better than No Country for Old Men.
10 poles. You already have the 10.
Something like that.
Well, you give me the model number on the 10, I can order you the poles.
Never mind, I want a tent.
Well, what kind of tent?
Kind with most poles.
Before that, they did Fargo, another crime movie that, yes, doesn't technically involve hitmen, but he hires men to kidnap his wife, but we all know how that ended up. And they were already successful when each of these movies released, but both of those films almost redefined their career and was a major, major step for them. But their very first feature film, a film that they independently financed, they made right out of film school, it's still one of my favorites, and I feel like a lot of folks have yet to see Blood Simple. Now, Blood Simple is currently available on HBO Max, Cinemax, which I know nobody has, and the Criterion Collection, which even fewer people subscribe to. If you love their other thrillers, it's well worth purchasing this. It's available in 4K, it's been remastered, it looks amazing, and they independently funded this thing. They made it right out of film school. It's almost as good as their best films. It's amazing what they were able to do with basically no experience. As a movie nerd, I find this movie to just be mind-blowing how good it is. And just like No Country for Old Men, it involves someone hiring a hitman that they then cannot stop. And the hitman's played by M. Emmett Walsh. He's amazing at this role. And Blood Simple features a little bit of the comedy, a little bit of the banter, maybe less so than a lot of their other movies, but sharp thriller elements and a pretty cool 80s vibe, as this was released in 1984, the year I was born. And Blood Simple looks nowhere near as old as I do. So I hope you found a trilogy you've never watched, or at least a trilogy you've maybe never looked at from that perspective before. But here's a recap, along with where you can most likely stream these movies today. Availability does change at a rapid pace, so make sure you click that subscribe button to catch future videos when I release them. Liking and commenting is always helpful, and don't forget to go check out the t-shirt shop over at darrenvandamme.com/shop. I'll keep making these videos as long as y'all keep watching them. Thanks for checking out this special trilogy video, the first one I've ever done, and you will see me on the next one.
In Arc Raiders, key rooms are supposed to hold the best loot in the game, especially during night raids. But is that actually true? And are they worth it compared to just running an optimized loot route? Today, I plan to try and answer that question by conducting a small key room test. The parameters are simple. I'm going to run a total of 6 keys, 2 uncommon, 2 rare, and 2 epic, where one of each will be during the day and the other one during a night raid. In order to try and make the results a little more precise, I will also be running the same key for each rarity. Hopefully this will allow us to gauge the true difference between the loot you get from day versus night raid key rooms. So without further ado, let's hop into it because I think the results are going to surprise you.
Psych! That's the wrong number!
Oh my... bro. Starting things off with the green keys, for which we decided to do Damn Surveillance Room, and thankfully we got a really good spawn. So we quickly headed straight there, hoping we'd be the first ones to arrive, but of course nothing's ever that easy, and as we expected, we were going to have to fight for control of some of these key rooms. Kind of a decently hard push. Oh, that's outside somewhere. If you want, you can go. Oh, someone's in the room for sure. Oh, knocks. Beamed one, but I gotta back up. I'm peeking again. There's one at like the end of my corner. I'm inside.
Oh, there's one on my door.
Could be 2 by you right now. It might have turned into a whole fiesta. 2 people on me.
God, I'm surrounded by bombs.
I'm chilling right now. Play slow. Beamed one.
They just smoked right side. One's definitely in that room, yeah. Just threw mine up.
Beamed one. One's 1 HP. Knocked one. He's in the back room. Or he's in the room. Cracked. Holy Lord. Now that we had taken care of the bogeys, my teammates scooped up their loot and I was able to make my way into the key room. Osprey, okay, it's not too bad. A lot of defibs.
Borges. Welcome to my channel.
Hello, Mr. Borges.
Okay, I've looted everything in the room. This is what I got. And now I'm about to loot the players. I don't want the loot to get too confused. So of course, both of us did fill up our inventories from the 4 dead raiders, but when specifically looking at the loot that I got from the key room, I'd say it was pretty, well, not good to say the least, which made me think the loot probably wasn't going to be that great during a night raid either. But even in my wildest dreams, I couldn't have imagined how wrong that prediction actually was. And both thankfully and surprisingly, this time around we were actually the first ones there, despite having even a slightly worse spawn than before. Ooh, Tempest 2. That's actually not too bad. Oh, okay, wait a minute. This... Okay, hold on. Why is the loot in here so good this time around? Goop, goop, goop. Olé.
Blueprint. No.
Oh my good God. Okay, well, let's leave.
Psych! That's the wrong number!
Oh my... Bro. Knocked one. Knocked two. Oh my God, that was... What in the fuck? Yeah, I couldn't have even scripted it better than that, if I'm being honest. If my teammate's Joltmine wasn't still there, I 100% would have just been dead almost instantly, but since it was, my absolute throw actually turned into a 5-head bait. And I gotta say that I was very pleasantly surprised by the loot this run. I mean, a Tempest, Volcano, Venator, and Snaphook, all from that same room, is more than I could have imagined, especially considering this is just an uncommon and or green key. However, as we moved on to do our rare keys, things were not gonna go quite as smoothly. See, at first, our plan was to try and do the Blue Gate communication key, so we loaded into a night raid to try and knock that out first while it was still available. Unfortunately though, we loaded in a few minutes late and it was already a war zone towards Pilgrim's Peak, which is where the key room is located. Regardless, we tried making our way over, even snagged a few kills on some very juiced raiders, but ultimately there were multiple teams there and one of them was just sitting on the tower with Ospreys, giving us no choice but to just extract and try again. But then Santa came early this year and we got extract camped anyways.
There's 3 teams surrounding it.
So, with the night raid map condition about to run out on Blue Gate, we loaded back into another match, hoping things would go at least a little bit better this time. But they didn't. We loaded in extremely late, and by the time we got to the key room, it had already been looted. Thankfully, this time we were at least able to extract. So, we ended up changing our plans a bit and decided to try our luck with Spaceport Control Tower keys instead. Once again though, we loaded in late, which seems to be happening very commonly as of recent, I might add. However, we made a mad dash for the key room, and were lucky enough to find that it hadn't been opened yet. So we made our way up the zipline so I could start looting.
Oh my God, there's a person looting this thing right here.
Okay. He fell all the way down, I think. Torrente, okay. Complex gun parts. Rattler. 2 rattlers in the same container. Sheesh. That's max win. Yeah, this might have to be some of the worst loot I could have actually imagined. I mean, I got a Torrente 2, an Arpeggio, 2 rattlers, a silencer 2, 5 processors, 5 sensors, 1 complex gun part. I mean, it's just like useless shit. I mean, it's not like useless, but it's just like, it's quite literally worse than just doing a regular loot route. If you couldn't already tell, I wasn't exactly stoked by the loot that we got from this particular key room. And I know, it's just a daytime key, but the fact is, I could have gotten significantly better loot by just running my loot route on Spaceport during daytime. And you don't have to deal with stuff like this when doing so. Oh my god. On me. Knocked one. This guy is half. He's gonna try and fin me, I think. He's on the left, It tucked in the corner. You can play defib if you want. Gary's probably gonna push. They can go around the right, by the way.
Yeah, I'm watching. I'll put a mine
I'm peeking
here.
on the right. On the right. One's cracked.
No, one's not.
On the right. Dead. Either way though, we made our way to the extract and loaded up a night raid to rerun the key, hoping that maybe it would be similar to our dam key where we would get significantly better loot this time around. Thankfully, once again, we were the first ones here, or potentially just the only ones interested in running this particular key room this raid, but regardless, I started looting up everything as fast as I could. I found an augment blueprint, but it's a bad one. Oh, snap hook. Okay, well that's kind of cool, I guess. Interesting that technically the snap hook wasn't in a locked or in part of the locked room. I don't really know if that should even count, but... Now, I'll let you guys decide for yourselves if you think that little container on the roof counts as part of the key room or not. I think you can technically get up there by using enough zip lines, but I'm of the assumption that that's not really intended and may change in the future. Even still though, whether you count the snap hook or not, I'd say this room in general, both during the day and at night, was sort of a letdown. I mean, I didn't even get a single purple item this run, let alone something like a purple gun, so yeah, I don't know. The one saving grace, I suppose, is that we did get an augment blueprint, so if that happened to just be an actually useful augment, and not one of the worst ones in the game that I've already learned, then that could have made up for it, but I suppose we just got a bit unlucky in that regard. With that being said though, I do find the difference in loot between this rare key on the harder map Spaceport and our uncommon key on the easiest map Dam Battlegrounds to be a bit staggering. However, this is still a small sample size, of course, so everything does have to be taken with a grain of salt, but at the same time, it's not like your average player is just tripping over keys left and right in every raid, so you'd kind of expect that each and every one you do should provide some minimum baseline of valuable loot, especially when you consider the increased risk of PvP. And last, but hopefully not least, we have our epic key, for which we chose to do Buried City Town Hall. Change up the map once again, and this also worked out pretty well because it allowed us to test 3 different difficulties of maps, since Dam is difficulty 2, Spaceport is difficulty 3, and Buried City is difficulty 4. Albeit, I didn't find it likely that this would make too much of a difference, and as of yet, the increased difficulty of Spaceport clearly didn't result in better loot, at least in our experience. Thankfully, even though we spawned late, we were the first ones here to do the key, so we set up some mines and I got to looting. Ooh, it's actually not bad. Silencer 3 and a deadline. Wait, there was literally nothing in my jewelry box room. What the hell? It's like usually where the good loot is, and there's just nothing. Found 3 blaze grenades so far. Ooh, anvil splitter. Goop, goop, goop.
You can loot these too. Or at least that one. And this one.
Simple gun parts, my brother in Christ.
After I finished up looting, we headed to the nearest extract and made our escape. All in all, I'd say the loot from this key for a daytime raid really wasn't too bad. We got 4 epics, a legendary attachment, just unfortunately it was an anvil splitter instead of a kinetic converter, which is quite a bit better in my opinion. But we also got a blueprint as well, albeit not a particularly rare one to be fair, but it was still significantly better overall than even the night raid spaceport key, so that at least felt pretty darn good. Now, when we headed back in for our first attempt at doing the key during a night raid, something pretty weird ended up happening. And truthfully, I'm not really in the business of just willy-nilly accusing people of cheating. At the end of the day, I think that's up to the developers to decide and dish out the necessary consequences. You know, feel free to report people if you think they're suspicious. But this particular case was unusually suspicious. So I'll kind of just let the situation play out, and feel free to let me know what you guys think down in the comments.
Wait, I hear mines,
Oh yeah, it's unlocked, so we should just leave. We'll never be able to push them. We should just go extract. At this point, nothing super crazy has happened quite yet, but I will just point out that it is uniquely odd to push outside the front door of the Town Hall keyroom because it's incredibly easy to defend from the inside. But don't worry, it gets a lot crazier in just a moment.
This.
Oh, they're in. What? Yo. So yeah, let's watch that back really quick. He quite literally killed me in 3/4 of a second, completely through a smoke, and then that same guy proceeded to hit headshots only on my teammate. Also, here is his Steam profile. So I don't know. Like I said, I usually don't like to throw around the cheater card willy-nilly, but if you ask me, this one was pretty blatant. But once again, feel free to let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Either way, after that demoralizing experience, we mustered up the courage to throw on some more kits and head back into another raid, confident that at the very least that cheater or god gamer, whatever you want to think he was, would be stuck in the previous lobby, causing havoc for those poor souls instead of us. And this time around, our luck was already looking a bit better, because we were the first ones to the key room. So as always, we set up some mines, and then I started looting. Ooh, Tempest. Okay, that's something at least. Okay, well, I think I looted everything. And yeah, I don't... Oh, Berletta. Okay. Yeah, I probably won't say this in the video, but like, this is dog shit. Like, I mean, I basically just got a bunch of random junk that you could just as easily find anywhere else on the map. Plus a Tempest and a Renegade, I guess. But like, the Renegade is not anything unique either. I mean, the Tempest is, I guess, kind of unique, but like, you could also find that in weapon cases and shit, not in key rooms. Like, for a purple key room, this is like disgusting. Like a purple key room at night on one of the highest difficulty maps. This actually just doesn't make any sense. Now, obviously, I wasn't planning on leaving that part in the video, but after thinking about it, I thought it just made sense to give you guys kind of my raw impressions in the moment. And it's not like this was my first ever purple key room, just to be clear, but I have run a lot of relatively optimized loot routes in between my previous key room session and this one, so it definitely allowed me to have a different perspective. With that being said though, here's the loot from all 6 key room runs. And I think the most interesting thing to me is that if you were to exclude the damn keys from the equation for a second, then I actually got far better loot from the day raids when compared to the night raids. even when you include the dam raids, it's still pretty odd in my opinion that the number of purples I got from day versus night raids is the exact same at 6 for each, because the level of risk involved with night raid key rooms is like 2 to 3 times higher just from the PvP alone, and that's not even taking into account just how unbelievably safe it is to be able to use a hatch key after the key room, which of course you can't do during night raids. I did end up getting 2 legendaries from the night raids compared to only 1 from the day raids, which is worth noting, and beyond that, it's still pretty puzzling to me that the best loot by far came from the uncommon / green dam surveillance key. I mean, that has to be one of the most common keys I've found. Between my duo and I think we had like 7 total of that one particular key laying around in our stashes, so in theory the loot there should be a decent bit worse than something like the Buried City Town Hall, but not only was the loot significantly better from the dam key, it also came from a total of maybe 5 to 10 containers, whereas the Buried City key room has like 20 containers to loot, but somehow the loot was still worse overall. At the end of the day, it's going to be up to each individual person to determine whether or not they think the key rooms are worth it for them, so feel free to let me know what you think down in the comments. But if you were to ask me, the answer would be an astounding no. And I really think Embark should contemplate maybe attaching blueprints to some of these key rooms. I don't think they should be exclusively locked to the key rooms though, just to be clear, so you should still be able to find those blueprints elsewhere. But just as an example, if you're specifically looking for augment blueprints, then maybe you go run this one particular key because it has a high chance to produce them. Or if you're specifically looking for the Venator blueprint, then you go run this other key, or the Volcano blueprint comes from that one key on Stella Montes. You know, these are all just random examples, but hopefully that makes sense. Because right now, I think blueprints are a pretty significant pain point for your average player, and simultaneously key rooms seem to be pretty lackluster. So I feel like you could pretty easily kill 2 birds with 1 stone, and this would be the best way to do that. And ultimately, that's going to go ahead and wrap up the video. As always, I really hope you guys enjoyed. As I said in the disclaimer, obviously this was a relatively small sample size, but as I said later in the video, your average player isn't tripping over keys left and right in each raid. So I feel like from each individual key you run, you should expect some baseline of loot. I mean, if you ask me, getting a green gun from a weapon case inside of a purple key room at night realistically just shouldn't be allowed. You know, I don't know what they would need to do to prevent that, but like blue guns at a minimum, I think are pretty reasonable, or is a pretty reasonable ask. But regardless, you know, that's not up to me to decide. That's for the developers. I'm just kind of throwing in my 2 cents here. Did a small little test, and in large, it was mainly for your guys' entertainment. So like I said, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please make sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.
EA launched Titanfall 2 between Call of Duty and Battlefield 1, basically sending their masterpiece to die. That's one of 15 incredible games destroyed by terrible timing or broken launches. Keep watching because you're about to discover forgotten masterpieces. Let's start with one of the biggest tragedies in gaming history, Titanfall 2. This game had everything going for it. The single-player campaign was a masterclass in level design, especially that mind-bending effect in cause level, where you're jumping between past and present to solve puzzles. The bond between pilot Jack Cooper and his Titan BT-7274 was more emotionally engaging than most Hollywood blockbusters. Then there's the multiplayer, wall running, double jumping, and calling down giant mechs in the middle of firefights. The movement system was so fluid it made other shooters feel like you're running through molasses. But here's the kicker. EA decided to launch it right between Call of Duty Infinite Warfare and Battlefield 1 in October 2016. It's like opening the world's best gourmet restaurant between McDonald's and Burger King. The game got absolutely crushed, despite being better than both its competitors. Now let's talk about Prey. And no, not the 2006 one. That naming confusion didn't help either. Arcane Studios created what might be the best immersive sim ever made, set on the space station Talos Avosh. This game asks a simple question: what if that coffee mug on your desk could suddenly sprout legs and try to kill you? The mimics are pure nightmare fuel. These alien creatures can disguise themselves as literally any object in the environment. That chair you're about to sit in? Potential death trap. Those boxes stacked in the corner? Could be 3 mimics having a meeting. This constant paranoia keeps you on edge in ways that jump scares never could. But what makes Prey incredible is how it gives you solutions to every problem. Need to get through a locked door? You can hack the keypad, find another route through the vents, transform into a coffee cup and roll under the gap, or just blow a hole in the wall with explosives. The game never forces you into one playstyle. The Neuromod system lets you upgrade with both human and alien abilities. Want to become a master hacker? Go for it. Prefer telekinetic powers? Absolutely. Want to literally transform into objects to sneak around? The game's got you covered. Every playthrough feels completely different based on how you choose to approach problems. The problem was that immersive sim doesn't exactly scream mainstream appeal, and the name confusion with the original Prey meant a lot of people didn't know what they were getting into.
Nothing. Superficial injuries. Nothing a portable medical kit can handle.
Dishonored 2 should have been a slam dunk. The original was beloved. Arcane had years to perfect the formula, and they delivered some of the most creative level design in gaming history. The Clockwork Mansion alone, where you're manipulating rooms and walls like a mechanical puzzle box, is pure genius. Then there's the time-shifting mansion where you're jumping between a glamorous party in the past and a decrepit ruin in the present. You can play as either Emily or Corvo, and they're not just cosmetic differences. Emily's powers like Domino, which links enemies so damage to one affects them all, completely changes how you approach encounters. Corvo brings back his classic abilities, but refined to perfection. The level of creativity the game allows is staggering, whether you're possessing enemies, stopping time, or finding completely non-violent solutions to every encounter. Now, will it mind the store? And damn, the art direction deserves special mention. Mbaka feels like a living, breathing Mediterranean city with its own culture, architecture, and problems. Every district tells a story through environmental details, and the way dust motes dance in sunbeams creates an atmosphere that's both beautiful and unsettling. But here's where everything went wrong. The PC version launched with serious performance issues. Frame rate problems, stuttering, and crashes killed the word-of-mouth momentum. By the time Arcane fixed these problems, most players had moved on. It's heartbreaking, because underneath those technical issues was one of the most polished and creative stealth games ever made. The console versions ran fine, but the damage was done. This masterpiece got buried under launch day technical problems that overshadowed years of brilliant game design. Mirror's Edge was way too ahead of its time. Released in 2008, this first-person parkour game asked players to think about movement in ways they'd never experienced before. Faith Connors wasn't just running through levels, she was flowing through them, using momentum and physics to chain together wall runs, precision jumps, and death-defying leaps across rooftops. The clean, minimalist aesthetic was revolutionary. While other games were drowning in brown and gray color palettes, Mirror's Edge gave us pristine white buildings accented with bold reds, blues, and yellows. The visual design wasn't just pretty, it was functional. Those red objects weren't just decoration, they were your path forward. A visual language that guided you through the urban jungle without breaking immersion with traditional UI elements. But here's what makes Mirror's Edge even more impressive in hindsight. The story of corporate surveillance and authoritarian control feels incredibly relevant today. Fate's world of government monitoring, restricted information, and runners carrying messages off the grid reads like a prophecy of our current digital landscape. The game was asking questions about privacy and freedom that most people weren't ready to hear in 2008. The problem was that first-person platforming was completely alien to most players. People expected to shoot things, not calculate jump distances and momentum. The learning curve was steep, and when you missed a jump and fell to your death, frustration set in quickly. EA's marketing didn't help either. They couldn't figure out how to sell a game that defied every genre convention. But Mirror's Edge influenced everything that came after. You can see its DNA in games like Dying Light, Titanfall, and countless indie platformers. It proved that first-person games could be about more than just pointing and shooting. This was pure innovation that deserved way more recognition than it got.
We hadn't talked much since I joined up. He had a break-in last week. He's still a campaign.
Sunset Overdrive is what happens when Insomniac Games decides to throw every crazy idea at the wall, then somehow makes it all stick together perfectly. Picture this: Tony Hawk's Pro Skater meets third-person shooting in a world where an energy drink has turned most of humanity into mutant monsters. You're grinding on power lines, bouncing off cars, and wall running while firing weapons that shoot vinyl records and teddy bear bombs. Fine! The traversal system is absolutely incredible. Staying on the ground gets you killed, so you're constantly chaining together grinds, bounces, and wall runs to maintain momentum while fighting enemies. It's like playing a rhythm game where the beat is gunfire and explosions. Once you master the movement, you feel like Spider-Man having the best day of his life. The humor is perfectly self-aware without being obnoxious. Your character constantly breaks the fourth wall, commenting on video game tropes and making jokes about the absurdity of the situation. The weapons are gloriously ridiculous. You've got the acid sprinkler that melts enemies, the high fidelity that fires vinyl records, and the freeze ray that lets you shatter frozen enemies like ice sculptures. But Sunset Overdrive had one massive problem. It was an Xbox One exclusive during the early days when PS4 was absolutely dominating the console war. Microsoft needed exclusives desperately, but limiting this incredible game to one platform killed its potential audience. This was the kind of game that could have been huge if it had launched on multiple platforms. The character customization was fantastic, letting you create anyone from punk rockers to business executives to complete weirdos. The world of Sunset City felt alive with its bright colors and constant chaos. This wasn't just another post-apocalyptic wasteland, this was a playground designed for maximum fun. Insomniac poured their heart into this project, and you can feel their passion in every ridiculous moment. It deserved to find a massive audience, but platform exclusivity during a console war meant most gamers never got to experience this masterpiece of controlled chaos. The Evil Within represents Shinji Mikami's return to survival horror, but it launched at the worst possible time. This was 2014, when the gaming world was obsessed with action shooters and open-world adventures. Horror games felt outdated, relegated to indie developers making cheap jump-scare simulators, but Mikami, the creator of Resident Evil, had something much more sophisticated in mind. This game brought back genuine resource management in ways that modern players had forgotten. Every bullet mattered, every health item was precious, and every encounter required careful planning. You couldn't just run and gun your way through, you had to think, conserve, and sometimes just run away. It was classic survival horror design in an era that had moved past those mechanics. The psychological horror elements were brilliant. Detective Sebastian Castellanos finds himself trapped in a nightmarish world where reality keeps shifting, where monsters represent twisted manifestations of trauma and guilt. The game didn't rely on cheap scares, it built a suffocating atmosphere of dread that stayed with you long after you stopped playing. But the marketing completely failed to communicate what made the game special. The trailers made it look like just another generic horror game with jump scares and gore. They couldn't figure out how to sell the psychological depth, the careful pacing, or the return to classic survival horror mechanics. Players expecting modern horror got something much more cerebral and demanding. The boss battles were grotesque masterpieces, each one a disturbing spectacle that tested your nerves as much as your skills. The Spider Lady, the Keeper with his safe head, these weren't just obstacles to overcome, but psychological nightmares that represented deeper themes about guilt, trauma, and the human condition. The Evil Within deserved to be recognized as a return to form for survival horror, but it got lost in a market that had moved on to different experiences. Darksiders 2 took everything great about the original and cranked it up to 11, but it launched into one of the most brutal circumstances any game has ever faced. THQ was going bankrupt during the game's development, and by the time it hit shelves, the company was in complete financial meltdown. All marketing momentum died, and players had no idea this masterpiece even existed. Playing as Death, one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse, you got a massive RPG experience that blended Zelda-style dungeons with God of War combat and a full loot system. Death wasn't just a different character, he played completely differently from War. Where the first game was methodical and heavy, Death was acrobatic and fast, wall running and chain swinging through environments with incredible fluidity. The world was absolutely massive, multiple realms to explore, each with their own unique aesthetic and challenges. The Forge Lands felt like a steampunk fever dream, while the Kingdom of the Dead was this haunting, ethereal realm where souls wandered in eternal twilight. Each area was packed with secrets, side quests, and optional dungeons that rivaled anything in major RPGs. But what made Darksiders 2 special was how it evolved the formula. The loot system meant every enemy could drop better weapons or armor, giving you constant progression beyond just story beats. The skill trees let you customize Death's abilities. You could focus on necromancy, become a melee powerhouse, or find the perfect balance between magic and combat. The dungeons were pure genius, massive multi-layered puzzles that required both combat skills and brain power to solve. These weren't just rooms with enemies, they were mechanical marvels with shifting platforms, water puzzles, and environmental challenges that made you feel like an archaeologist and warrior combined. THQ's bankruptcy killed what should have been a massive franchise. This was easily one of the best action RPGs ever made, but business problems completely overshadowed the incredible game underneath. Alpha Protocol is the most ambitious RPG you've probably never played, and that's a tragedy because Obsidian created something genuinely revolutionary here. This spy thriller asked a simple question: what if every conversation, every choice, and every mission approach completely changed your story? Not just dialogue differences, but fundamental shifts in plot, character relationships, and available options. So, the conversation system was pure genius. Instead of traditional dialogue trees, you had a timer and 3 personality options: suave, aggressive, or professional. But here's the kicker. Characters remembered everything. Be sarcastic to someone early in the game, and they'll reference it hours later. Save someone's life, and they might return the favor when you least expect it. The reactive storytelling was deeper than anything before or since. Every mission could be approached multiple ways. Want to go in guns blazing? Absolutely. Prefer to hack security systems and sneak through vents? Perfect. Feel like bribing guards and smooth talking your way past...
Iđu, nema para za mlijeko, rekao.
Spomenut sam. Pa deća, ali zaboravim.
Možda je zaboravio da niko uzeo znak. Nije.
Nisu pare problem, problem je kad se zaboravili.
To je to. Zaboraviš i dođeš, daš očeka, nisi platio
Ja sam
lijepo.
gledao juče račun za recimo internet, ne znam da ste čuli da su nam prebacili sa Deltorneta na MTS.
Da.
Ali nas niko nije pitao. I sad kome ja sada platim? Ja gledam juče, tamo gdje sam plaćao
Pa sljedeći račun.
Pa verovatno tako.
Sljedeći račun nemoj plaćati ali ovdje ne može, nema ostati dužan.
Ja sam gledao tu Beograd.
Tako je sve stojan doli, sestre danci, oni su isto mi doli, zna to. I sad nisu ga objesili. A još nisu prebacili sa toga na ovo. Pa ja sam sve, gledao kad sam ja manje pokušao, ja sam 2 godine plaćao. Prvo total, tamo u kući, godinu dana mi dođemo, nema signala, nema ovo, nema ono. Ja ih nazovem da pogleda i to. Oni dođu kad mi trebamo ići nazad. Onda prebacim na MTL. Toliko su brzi. Ista stvar. I onda to raskritam. Sve to. I uzmem antenu kod ovoga u Feketić. 20 kanala, tamo imam čista slika ko staku. Meni više tamo ne treba. Koji će mi kurac? A ne godinu dana sam plaćao, jebnuti pas materija, tamo nešto da pogledam. Nema ništa.
Izvijete še. Be right back.
obstacles, the game supported that too. But your choices had consequences. Kill someone quietly and their allies might never know what happened. Go loud and suddenly you're dealing with increased security and angry enemies who know you're coming. The problem was that Alpha Protocol launched in a buggy state that hid its brilliance. Combat felt clunky, animations were stiff, and technical issues made it easy to dismiss as just another broken game. But underneath those problems was the most sophisticated choice and consequence system ever created. Character relationships were incredibly complex. Scarlet Lake might hate you for your methods, but respect your results. Stephen Heck could become your best friend or your worst enemy based on how you handle his particular brand of insanity. Every handler, contact, and target reacted to your reputation and previous actions in ways that made each playthrough feel completely unique. This was too complex for action fans who wanted straightforward shooting, and too janky for RPG purists who expected polish. Alpha Protocol fell between genres and audiences, but it created something genuinely special that deserved way more recognition. Spec Ops. The Line pulled off one of the greatest tricks in gaming history. It looked like every other generic military shooter, but it was actually a profound anti-war masterpiece that deconstructed everything those games represented. The marketing showed soldiers shooting bad guys in Dubai, and that's exactly what players expected. What they got instead was a psychological horror story that asked uncomfortable questions about violence, heroism, and the cost of war. This was Heart of Darkness transplanted to a sand-buried Dubai, where Captain Walker leads his squad into a city destroyed by massive sandstorms. What starts as a rescue mission becomes a descent into madness as Walker makes increasingly desperate choices to justify his actions. The game doesn't just show you war is hell, it makes you complicit in that hell through your own choices. The White Phosphor scene is gaming's most devastating moment. Without spoiling it, the game forces you to use a chemical weapon, then shows you the horrific consequences of that choice. It's not a cutscene you watch, it's something you do, something you can't take back. The game asks whether following orders absolves you of moral responsibility, and the answer is deeply uncomfortable. That here's why it flopped. These came expecting Call of Duty, power fantasy, and got existential crisis instead. The marketing couldn't reveal the game's true nature without spoiling the experience, so it looked like just another shooter in an oversaturated market. The environmental storytelling was incredible, but here's why it flopped. Players came expecting Call of Duty power fantasy and got existential crisis instead. The marketing couldn't reveal the game's true nature without spoiling the experience, so it looked like just another shooter in an oversaturated market. If you want to experience this psychological masterpiece yourself, check the description for links. It's dirt cheap now and absolutely worth your time. The environmental storytelling was incredible. Dubai wasn't just a setting, it was a character. This once gleaming city buried under sand dunes where luxury hotels became refugee camps and civilization collapsed under the weight of natural disaster. The imagery of American soldiers fighting in a ruined monument to capitalism wasn't subtle, but it was effective. Spec Ops: The Line deserved recognition as one of gaming's most important statements about violence and heroism, but it got dismissed as another military shooter by audiences who never saw its true brilliance.
The fuck are we doing here?
Lugo's got a point.
Kingdoms of Amalur: Reckoning had everything going for it. A fantasy world created by R.A. Salvatore, art direction by Todd McFarlane, and game design by Ken Rolston, who worked on Morrowind and Oblivion. This should have been the RPG to end all RPGs. Instead, it became one of gaming's biggest tragedies thanks to business problems that had nothing to do with the actual game. The combat system was absolutely incredible, fluid, responsive, and endlessly satisfying. You could seamlessly switch between weapons mid-combo, chaining together sword strikes, magic spells, and chakram throws in ways that felt like choreographed dance battles. Every encounter was an opportunity to experiment with different combinations and discover new ways to devastate your enemies. But what made Reckoning truly special was the Destiny system. Instead of picking a class at the beginning and being stuck with it, you could mix and match abilities from 3 different skill trees. Might for warriors, finesse for rogues, and sorcery for mages. Want to be a heavily armored mage who casts spells with a massive sword? Go for it. Prefer a sneaky assassin who can also heal allies? Absolutely possible. The game encouraged experimentation in ways that most RPGs never dare. The world of Amalur was massive and gorgeous, filled with colorful environments that felt genuinely magical. From the autumn forests of Dalentarth to the crystal caves of Dettire, every region had its own distinct personality and visual identity. The lore was deep and engaging, with fascinating cultures and political conflicts that made exploration feel rewarding. But 38 Studios went bankrupt during the game's launch window, all marketing stopped, post-launch support disappeared, and the planned MMO sequel got cancelled. As you see, players had no idea this incredible RPG existed because the company couldn't afford to tell them about it. The game sold decently, but nowhere near what it needed to recoup the massive development costs. This was supposed to be the start of a massive franchise that could compete with Elder Scrolls and Dragon Age. Instead, it became a cautionary tale about how business problems can destroy even the most brilliant creative work. Sleeping Dogs rose from the ashes of true crime Hong Kong, and that cancellation stigma hurt it from day one. Players dismissed it as just another Grand Theft Auto clone, but this was something much more special, an authentic Hong Kong crime story with incredible hand-to-hand combat and one of the best undercover cop narratives in any medium. Playing as Wei Shen, an undercover cop infiltrating the Triads, you experience the constant tension of maintaining your cover while staying true to your moral code. The story didn't just use Hong Kong as a backdrop, it celebrated the city's culture, language, and unique character. Every street corner felt authentic, from the neon-lit night markets to the towering residential blocks that define the skyline. The combat system was pure martial arts poetry. Instead of relying on gunplay like most open-world games, Sleeping Dogs emphasized brutal hand-to-hand fighting with environmental takedowns that were both visceral and satisfying, slamming enemies into phone booths, throwing them off rooftops, or using kitchen appliances as weapons. Every fight felt like a scene from a Hong Kong action movie. The driving felt fantastic too, with motorcycles and cars that handled with arcade perfection through Hong Kong's dense urban streets. The city wasn't just a map to traverse. It was a living, breathing place with incredible attention to detail. Street food vendors, mahjong parlors, karaoke bars, everything contributed to the authentic atmosphere. But Sleeping Dogs got lost in a crowded market of open-world games. The true crime cancellation made people skeptical, and Square Enix's marketing couldn't overcome the perception that this was just another GTA knockoff. The game reviewed well and found a dedicated audience, but it deserved to be recognized as one of the best crime games ever made. The voice acting deserves special mention. The cast delivered authentic performances in both English and Cantonese, switching between languages naturally as real Hong Kong residents do. But this wasn't just localization, it was cultural authenticity that made the world feel genuine in ways most games never achieve. Binary Domain came from the Yakuza team at Sega, and you can feel their expertise in character development and storytelling throughout this brilliant sci-fi shooter. Set in 2080 Tokyo, the game asks complex questions about artificial intelligence, consciousness, and what makes us human, themes that feel incredibly relevant today as we grapple with advancing AI technology. The voice command system was ahead of its time. You could actually talk to your squad mates during combat, giving orders and responding to their questions using your microphone. Your relationships with team members changed based on how you treated them, both in conversation and in battle. Save someone's life and they'd trust you more. Let them get hurt through careless play and they'd start questioning your leadership. But what made Binary Domain special was the robot destruction system. Enemies weren't just health bars, they were complex mechanical beings that reacted realistically to damage. Shoot a robot's leg and it would limp but keep fighting. Destroy its weapon arm and it would switch to backup systems or try to beat you with its remaining limb. The attention to detail in how these machines broke down and adapted was incredible. The story tackled heavy themes about consciousness and identity through the lens of an action-packed thriller. Without spoiling anything, the game's exploration of what separates humans from machines became deeply personal as the plot progressed. The squad dynamics reminded me of classic war movies, but with philosophical questions about artificial life woven throughout. Sega's marketing completely failed this game. They positioned it as just another generic third-person shooter, but it was actually an innovative blend of action and thoughtful science fiction. The voice command system and squad relationship mechanics were revolutionary, but most players never knew these features existed. The boss battles were spectacular, massive mechanical monstrosities that required both strategy and firepower to defeat. Each encounter felt like a puzzle wrapped in explosive action, testing your understanding of the robot damage system while delivering incredible spectacle. Binary Domain deserved recognition as one of the smartest action games ever made, but poor marketing in the crowded shooter market meant most players never experienced its brilliance. Alan Wake was Stephen King meets Max Payne in the misty forests of the Pacific Northwest, and it was way too cerebral for most players in 2010. Remedy Entertainment created something genuinely unique, a psychological thriller where light itself became your primary weapon against the forces of darkness. But the game fell into that dreaded middle ground where it was too action-heavy for horror fans and too weird for action fans. The episodic structure was brilliant, treating each chapter like a TV show, complete with recaps and cliffhangers. Alan Wake, a best-selling writer suffering from writer's block, travels to the small town of Bright Falls only to discover that his fiction is somehow manifesting in reality. The pages of a manuscript he doesn't remember writing are scattered throughout the town, and they're predicting increasingly horrific events. The light-based combat was revolutionary. Enemies called the Taken were shrouded in darkness that acted like armor, so you had to burn it away with flashlights, flares, or streetlights before your bullets could hurt them. This created incredibly tense encounters where you're managing multiple light sources while being stalked by shadowy figures through dense forests and abandoned buildings. What made Alan Wake special was its atmosphere. The Pacific Northwest setting felt authentic and lived in, from the quirky locals at the local diner to the Twin Peaks-inspired weirdness that lurked beneath small-town charm. The radio shows, TV programs, and manuscript pages you found weren't just collectibles. They were pieces of a larger narrative puzzle that rewarded careful exploration. But Microsoft's marketing couldn't figure out how to sell it. The game was too literary for mainstream audiences and too action-oriented for people who wanted pure psychological horror. It launched into a market dominated by big blockbuster shooters, and its thoughtful pacing felt out of step with gaming trends. The influence of Alan Wake can be seen everywhere now, from Control's reality-bending narrative to countless indie games that blend horror with meta-fictional storytelling. It found its cult following years later, but it deserved recognition as the innovative masterpiece it was from day one. Enslaved. Odyssey to the West took the classic Chinese novel Journey to the West and reimagined it as a post-apocalyptic adventure with some of the best character work in gaming history. Ninja Theory crafted a beautiful retelling where nature has reclaimed a world devastated by war, creating environments that were both haunting and gorgeous. The relationship between Trip and Monkey was the heart of everything. Trip, a tech-savvy survivor, places a slave headband on Monkey that forces him to protect her. But what starts as reluctant cooperation slowly develops into genuine care and affection. The motion capture performances by Lindsay Shaw and Andy Serkis brought these characters to life with subtle expressions and natural chemistry that rivaled the best Hollywood romances. The world design was absolutely stunning. Instead of the usual brown and grey post-apocalyptic wasteland, Enslaved gave us a planet where nature was winning the war against abandoned technology. Vines covered skyscrapers, flowers bloomed from rusted cars, and wildlife had returned to reclaim the cities. It was hopeful and beautiful in ways that post-apocalyptic games rarely dare to be. The platforming felt incredible thanks to Monkey's acrobatic abilities. Climbing through the ruins of New York, swinging from mechanical structures, and leaping between crumbling buildings created a sense of flow and momentum that made exploration feel effortless. The combat was solid too, with Monkey's staff providing satisfying melee encounters against various mechanical enemies. But Enslaved launched right into the oversaturated post-apocalyptic market of 2010. Players were suffering from wasteland fatigue after Fallout 3, Borderlands, and countless other games featuring ruined worlds. The gorgeous art direction and hopeful tone couldn't overcome the perception that this was just another game about surviving after the end of the world. The story's emotional beats hit incredibly hard. Without spoiling anything, the journey these characters take together becomes deeply personal, exploring themes of freedom, sacrifice, and what it means to truly care for another person. The ending sequence is one of gaming's most emotionally devastating moments, asking profound questions about memory, reality, and the price of peace. Ninja Theory poured their hearts into this project, and you can feel their passion in every beautifully rendered environment and carefully crafted character moment. It deserved to find a massive audience but got buried under market fatigue for its chosen setting. Bulletstorm asked a simple question: what if shooting games rewarded creativity over accuracy? Epic Games and People Can Fly created the most innovative first-person shooter mechanics in years, but juvenile marketing and poor timing meant most players never experienced its brilliance. The skill shot system was pure genius. Instead of just killing enemies, you were rewarded for killing them in creative, over-the-top ways. Kick an enemy into a cactus, and you'd earn points for the pricked skill shot. Use your energy leash to pull someone toward an explosive barrel, and you'd get rewarded for thinking outside the box. Every encounter became a playground for experimentation. The weapons were gloriously ridiculous. The flail gun shot 2 grenades connected by a chain that would wrap around enemies before exploding. The penetrator fired giant drills that could pin enemies to walls. The bone duster was a quadruple barrel shotgun that could turn enemies into pink mist. Each weapon had multiple fire modes and encouraged different types of creative kills. But the marketing completely killed this game's chances. The trailers focused on crude humor and juvenile dialogue, making it look like a game for teenage boys who thought swearing was the height of comedy. The sophisticated combat mechanics and creative weapon design got buried under marketing that emphasized the wrong elements entirely. The campaign was actually a tight, focused experience with incredible set pieces. The giant wheel sequence, the helicopter chase, and the final boss battle were spectacular moments that showcased the game's creative potential. The story wasn't Shakespeare, but it served its purpose of getting you from one incredible action sequence to the next. Epic Games was caught between their serious Gears of War franchise and this colorful experiment, and they never figured out how to position Bulletstorm in their lineup. The game launched between major Gears releases and got lost in the shuffle despite being more innovative than either of those more successful titles. The influence of Bulletstorm can be seen in modern shooters that reward creative play, but it never got the recognition it deserved for revolutionizing how we think about combat in first-person games.
You didn't go to hell alone, General. I'm gonna take you. Take every
Great games don't always find their audience immediately. Every game on this list influenced countless titles that came after. If you dismissed any of these because of bad launches, now's your chance to experience what you missed. Most are dirt cheap now. Check the description for links to buy any of these incredible games. Don't forget to like for more hidden gems. Which one are you?
through a secure encrypted tunnel. Whenever I want to post something that the enlightened thinkers of the future might take issue with, I just open the app, pick a country, and connect. Now, my burner accounts are truly anonymous, and thanks to ExpressVPN, I don't have to worry about getting put in a soul gem for posting Sam Altman as a rat trapped in a bubble. Find out how you can get 4 extra months free by scanning the QR code on screen, clicking the link in the description box below, or by going to expressvpn.com/Seth. Stalker Anomaly is a standalone total conversion that merges the original free games. Stalker Gamma is more than 550 configurable mods on top of Anomaly, and the best experience I've ever had. However, missing a single step in the free hour installation botches the whole process and puts you right back to the beginning. In response, GOG developed a single-click installation that handles everything. If you own a copy of Call of Pripyat, the Enhanced Edition, or Stalker 2 on GOG, you can add Stalker Gamma to your library. I've put them on sale. If you're too late for the sale, buy a CD key. If you can't afford a CD key, steal everything and install it manually. It's performance heavy, so while you're at it, find your nearest /r/PC Master Race meetup, find out where they live, and rob them at gunpoint. I recommend formatting the SSD immediately, as it most definitely contains Lolicon. The Zone has a mind of its own, where everything works exactly as intended. Just don't Alt-Tab during a load screen or you lose audio. And make sure you finish Lab X19 in one go, because that timer doesn't reset and you can accidentally softlock yourself. And if you spent the last hour searching for a story artifact that can't be found, that's because it's been thrown out of map bounds by a grav anomaly, and your only option is spawning it yourself using the debugging console. Despite all this is still surprisingly stable. Now let's get to the meat of it. You can start as any of the major factions. Would you like to be left alone as the whole map chimps out? Become a scientist. Would you like to do crime? Join the bandits. Would you like to do organized crime? Join the government. But to experience most of the story content, you'll want to stick to something neutral. For a second playthrough, just turn on Warfare and play whatever. Unless it's Renegade, which is a documented form of self-harm. The Zone exists to the present day of 2018. The Brain Scorcher has been reactivated, and anyone getting too close is subjected to Blah D music. Those who listen become mindless husks. Those who understand the lyrics join the ever-surging ranks of Monolith. The UN and NATO have cracked down on arms trafficking. A gun is worth as much as the rust that's on it. Nothing new is coming in, and everything already here is scrap metal. Welcome to Gamma's progression system. It's actually very simple when you get down to it. None of your actions have any monetary value unless someone's paying. Luckily, there's a dynamic mission system, which ties into a sophisticated sandbox simulation that results in complete chaos. Take a request to clear out mutants. Complete it automatically because the AI did it for you. Take a delivery. Fail because your client took a shotgun to the face. Click every job on the task board without looking and get very surprised as you hear the approaching rotors of the Ukrainian military. Situations arise and coincidence stacks together to create interactions that are more ridiculous and bizarre than any scripted event.
Monolith.
This is not an exaggeration. Anything can happen, and nothing is static. Anomalies move, radiation patches migrate, and factions go to war with one another all in the course of a day. Act like a scumbag, and you'll end up in a body bag, as even your own faction would sooner kill a traitor than an enemy. Build a trustworthy reputation, and traitors will offer better supplies and ammunition. And for the rest, you're on your own. Perform enough work, and your clients will ping the location of a rare stash. These contain a random set of tools. When everything is garbage, your only option is to fix it. Guns are a series of parts that can be field stripped, cleaned, and swapped out, unless they're completely trashed, in which case you need a full replacement. Lack of maintenance results in mechanical failure, while dirty, warped, or broken barrels turn bullets into glorified confetti. Equipment works a little differently. The condition and stats is the average durability of each component. Past a certain threshold, you can't repair directly, and the only way to restore them is by replacing the individual parts. But everything I've described requires the appropriate repair kit for that category or complexity of gear, which can only be made with the appropriate set of tools. This is how Gamma incentivizes the player to go north. To progress, we have to push deeper towards the heart of the zone, which is why I didn't get expert tools until 100 hours in, because I spent all my time building an incel bunker in the middle of Rostock. Virtually every challenge I've ever faced is an opportunity to engineer a solution. For example, I have a natural propensity for hoarding, which is why I craft and equip the highest possible carry capacity and still get overloaded. But with the help of my trusty chemistry set, I can take a bump of cocaine off my knife and sprint at 200 beats per minute for the next few hours. This works up an appetite, so I hotkey a bag of peanuts for consumption on the go. This is truly the most immersive experience. I tune up a G36, only to realize that every trader willing to sell to me is from a Warsaw Pact, so they don't carry 5.56 NATO. Not a problem. As long as I have the appropriate casing, propellant, and projectile, I can hand load it myself. But bullets are expensive, so I disguise myself as a hoodlum, build a 3x3 box fort to encase my body, and as one of them passes by, I deconstruct it and stab them in the face. In Gamma, you die quickly, and you die a lot. A single dog bite is a third of your health bar. If you don't have a bandage or anticoagulants, it'll quickly drop to 0. The camp isn't far, but your leg is completely raw, and running will only cause more fractures. So your best option is to reflect on your mistakes. Limbs take damage based on the location of the impact, with a multitude of fun and engaging disabilities. Treatment is a two-step process. We administer first aid to temporarily stop the symptoms, and to make the results permanent, We inject fentanyl. The success or failure of my expedition is decided entirely by the raw quantity of fent needles inside my inventory. But sometimes, you can't outsmart the zone. If the sirens start blaring and comms suddenly go down, hide. Emissions and psi storms are the zone's reminder. We don't belong here. However, right after a blowout is the best time to hunt for artifacts, as anomaly fields soak the energy and result in their formation. Artifacts in Stalker are a bunch of passive stats. Artifacts in Gamma let you kick pseudo-giants to death and turn the game into Dark Messiah. Reverse the vector of approaching projectiles. Solo the entire late game with a fire axe. Reward your accuracy by accelerating each bullet faster than the last, until you accidentally miss, in which case your head explodes. Or sign a pact with a zone, which is completely irreversible, forcing you to feed it until there's nothing left to give, except yourself. But I wouldn't worry about that, because it's time for another sacrifice. Remember, the clock is ticking. Artifacts are now amazing possibilities that end in death or glory. The same is true of anomalies. The base game could be described as a cluster of fart clouds, causing the infliction of incredible gassy, and your subsequent demise. Compare this to a single anomaly in Gamma, which I can use to escape pursuing enemies, by temporarily pausing my existence, and causing a time dilation several hours into the future. And unlike the sequel, mutants actually have value. Oh, succulent cooked dog. Delicious. Washed down with mineral spring, watered with blood of dragon, and herbal remedy infused with urine of incel virgin boy. That is, until you figure out all your needs can be met by copious amounts of Monster Energy Zero Ultra. And from there, you'll never have to sleep again. Look, I'm not going to explain why a Fracture's body contains marijuana. If you're going to take issue with a realism, explain female stalkers. Strugatsky stated clearly in the lore, there's no women in the zone, because their menstrual cycles would sync up and wreak havoc in the sewer system. You can tell Gamma's priorities by the fact that there's an entire keyboard dedicated to switching between the side rail and the iron sights, configuring your red dot, turning on the infrared camera, switching the fire select, clearing a jam, relaxing your stance to show non-aggression, putting on your gen-free night vision, configuring its sensitivity, and rotating your neck without moving. This is tactical gun autism, because there's more than 100 fully accurate reproductions from World War II to the modern era, to which you can attach real-world scopes, suppressors, and underbarrel launchers. And it doesn't stop there, because I didn't include tactical conversions that fundamentally modify the entire frame. This is the whole point of Gamma, paying 200,000 rubles for a smuggled Raytheon thermal scope, so I can 10x zoom on a toilet in pitch darkness and appreciate the individual skid marks left behind. At night, the humble duende comes out to forage. As they are small and unbaptized, a single bullet sends him straight to hell, where he belongs. I've played with the default configurations, and I was just fine. Granted, I ran out of matches at the start and I couldn't save. But if you can't stay alive for even 3 minutes since your last quick save, maybe you shouldn't be here. PC gamers be like, quick save, quick load, when dad starts beating mom. Maybe this time she can survive the encounter, as she dodge rolls his belt pattern. But unlike Mother, we don't have to play victim. If you wanted to quick save normally, just open Mod Organizer and untick the plugin. If you want to tweak any of the individual settings, you can change many of them in the mod configuration menu. After all, it's your experience, and there's no one to criticize you. I know this too well. Over 10 years ago, I was playing a roguelike on a train, and of all the worst things to happen, a Polish man caught me save scumming by deleting the folder and restoring a backup, and he simply shook his head in disappointment. This caused untold generational trauma, for which I am still seeking reparations. I've come a long way from stale bread and canned tomatoes. Now I roll with my squad, as they glitch out and fail to correctly execute a bandit. Andre, take 5 and watch me hit this dart. We can use your Save a helmet as a bong to recirculate the THC. In summary, I love Gamma and I thoroughly recommend it. I no longer care for my responsibilities. It's consumed my life, and all I want to do is hunt artifacts for below minimum wage. As always, more content to come, so stay tuned. A warm thanks to the many members of Merchants Guild, generously funding and bankrolling these videos. Merry Christmas.
Удачной охоты, сталкер. Super Earth, our home. One shudders to envisage what repulsive larvae gestates within the gloom as we speak. The Illuminate cannot be allowed to corrupt our lands. The Galactic War, a battleground awaiting your heroic intervention.
Initiating FTL jump to the Foyer Bay system. jump complete. Mission coordinates locked. Hellpods primed. Hellpod launch initiated.
Sending down equipment package. Deploying sentry.
How about a nice cup of liberty? Get some! Get some!
Objective near your position.
Mag's empty.
Objective critical stratagem available. Objective critical stratagem no longer available. Deploying sentry. Sending down equipment package. Driver lost. Sending replacement. Request approved. Deploying reinforcements.
Democracy has landed. Fire in the hole! Found something!
Deploying sentry. Objective critical stratagem available. Hellbomb request approved. Deploying now.
How'd you like the taste of Freedom! Hellbomb armed! Clear the area!
Still silent.
Objective near your position.
Found something!
Objective critical stratagem available. Objective critical stratagem available. Sending down sentry. Mission at 30 minutes remaining.
Have a taste of democracy!
Democracy has been well delivered. May your extraction be swift.
mercy!
Sending down sentry.
Get some! Get some! Tagging map.
Extraction is available.
Life for Super Earth! Found something!
Sending down sentry.
How'd you like the taste of freedom? For prosperity!
Deploying sentry. Deploying equipment package. Extraction is available. Sending down support weapon.
Found something! Throwing grenade! Found something.
Extraction is available. Mission at 20 minutes remaining.
Something here.
Sending down sentry. Extraction is available. Deploying equipment package. Extraction shuttle inbound. 30 seconds. ETA T-minus 1 minute. ETA T-minus 30 seconds. ETA T-minus 20 seconds. ETA T-minus 10 seconds. Sending down sentry.
This is Pelican 1. I have visual on the extraction zone. Pelican 1, landing in progress. Extraction complete. Pelican 1 beginning ascent.
Liberty has seen you through.
A victory for democracy.
Off to take lap. Catch you tomorrow.